Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Big Ten Mafia Show, part of the College Football Mafia. An exciting Week 9, and the whole gang is back together. I am Sergeant Pickles, and with me are my fantastic co-hosts, Becky Go Huskies and Moen. How we doing, Becky and Moen?
Doing good.
Doing good.
I think the gentleman in the Purdue hat at the bottom of our screen had a slightly better weekend than the two Husky fans at the top here, but we will get right into that. It was a strange weekend. It's been the trend lately that they're either super close one-score games or one of the teams just rolls and, is 20 points out in the lead. I don't know why there's really nothing in between in the Big Ten, but such has been the way this year. And I think we can start right out, Moen, with that the Rutgers USC on Friday, the vaunted Big Ten hates Rutgers game because they made them fly across the country and play at 8 p.m. local time, 11 p.m. New Jersey time. How did the mighty Scarlet Knights fare, Moen?
Not well. This was USC's get-right game, I guess, because they stopped the losing streak they were on. And, it wasn't a pretty game. I don't know if you saw any of it, but basically the running back for USC had 3 touchdowns. The quarterback from USC ran for a touchdown. So it was an ugly game, and it was ugly quick. I think it was 28-10 at one point in the second quarter. So it was not a pretty game.
Yeah, I was only able to catch a little bit of it. As you can imagine, with young children, our bedtime's pretty early here. But USC was just rolling. I could tell kind of early on as I watched part of that game that Lincoln Riley, this is the Lincoln Riley game. He can throw offense. He can make, a dude who, no disrespect to Miller Moss, but I think he's just an okay quarterback. But this is kind of how you beat Rutgers in my mind. This is what Washington failed to do, is get up early on them, really put the pressure on, and you force Kelly McManus to really try and throw it to get back in this game, and he has limitations. He was able to make a couple big throws because USC still has questionable defensive coverage, but just some of the bonehead plays, and he missed a dude wide open in the end zone that could have got him back into the game. And like you said, Woody Marks, the running back for USC, is extremely talented. He was rolling. I think he had 3 touchdowns. But, yeah, I don't think Rutgers really ever had a shot in this as I watched the recap. Becky, were you able to catch some of this on a Friday, or were you out living it up in the nightlife of Seattle?
I caught the whole game.
Very good.
So,
what'd you think? What'd you think with our friends down south?
First off, I think we need to just come out and say it like this was we're pissed off. We lost to the last couple of weeks on our own stupidity. They came out with a little bit more fire than I had seen them have all season. They really pushed the tempo, and it felt like a true air raid kind of night. I mean, the starting running back, what's his name? Marks had 15 carries for 94 yards and 3 scores.
Woody Marks. He didn't get called on a ton because USC does rotate running backs, but he broke them open quite a few times. They
still threw for over 300 yards. They just lit them up. And this is, I think, even USC fans would tell you, this is the game that they wanted to see out of their team. The defense was stout. They didn't really give up a whole lot. I think, a few people were a little annoyed at the touchdown at the very end of the game. There was a touchdown with 20 seconds left or something like that. But, it kind of felt like running up the scoreboard a little bit because they didn't have to do it. They were up 2 scores. But it really was, or I should say in the third quarter, it really was kind of you didn't have to do that, but you did it. Okay. They just beat them in 3 quarters. That's what I'm saying. I was watching it with a USC fan. He thought that touchdown probably was unnecessary. But this game felt completely out of control immediately. And like I said, USC needed this game. Rutgers, again, proving that nobody wins when you travel more than 2 time zones. we'll get into it as we go through the weekend, but I think there's only been 5 wins all season when these teams travel more than 2 time zones.
The trend is not going well.
No, and you go, oh, in the NFL, usually the East Coast teams do better traveling west, and the West Coast teams do traveling east, and it's usually those 10 a.m. start times. But yeah, this did, 2 a.m. or whatever it was that this game was still on in New Jersey. Probably those fans were like, you know what, we're going to bed, we're drunk. So yeah, fun game though. It was a really fun game, but USC needed this win more so than Rutgers needed a win.
Yeah, this was definitely, like you said, with the maybe unnecessary touchdown. It's, I think, the get right game thing where you're putting an extra one on, you're showing out in your home stadium in front of your fans, and it was a crazy night in Los Angeles because the World Series was also going on. So you got to stay relevant in the LA media market, and
it was a small crowd.
Yeah,
it was a very small crowd. Small. So I know people harp on them, but you had 50,000 at a Dodgers game. You had 20,000 at a Lakers game. There was there was a concert at the Intuit Dome. There was something.
There were two other top 10 high school games. Which, if you don't know about Bosco and Mater Dei, those are 2 of the best recruiting high schools in the whole country, and it's a big time even in Los Angeles when those meet up. So that was going on. All those events were going on at the same time. It's LA. You gotta stay relevant, even if you're USC. And a win like that, putting up a good score on Rutgers, that's a way to make a statement. Yeah. I've neglected our friends in chat, but real fast, Tony Lashman pointing out, Kyle Monangai injury. I don't think it would have changed the outcome in this game. It had already mostly gotten away from him, but it is a concern for Rutgers going forward because they lean on him so much.
Like when you watch that, Moen, how physical did you think USC was in this game? Just can't hear him. Oh.
Moen, we're not picking you up.
Hear me now?
You're really quiet.
There
we go. Better.
There we go.
Okay. I think, it's just they got out in front and they never had a chance of catching up. And I'm not going to fault them for that touchdown late because they've lost 3 games by 4 points in the last 3 weeks. So Lincoln Riley's probably thinking to himself, get as much points as you can in case this defense collapses in the third and fourth quarter like it has in the previous week.
It was 20 seconds left in the third quarter, and people were like, why are you scoring that? Because it doesn't look like Rutgers is going to do anything the rest of the way. It's that's how this game was. People were like, why are they doing this? They're just running it up now. But like Moen said, what was the score when Maryland came back? I think they started that in the fourth quarter too. We would have to go back and look at the stats, but like I said, USC has lost by 1 point. All those 3 games they lost on that streak, they lost at the end of the game when their defense could no longer. Their defense just isn't conditioned to play 4 quarters in the Big Ten yet.
Yeah, feather in their cap on that one, because if you look right there, granted Monangai injury and the game was out of hand, but they held them scoreless in the fourth quarter. I think that's what Riley wanted all along. You put up the points, and even if it's against a opponent that's kind of hurting, you're still closing out games. I've neglected our chat before we jumped right in, but we're going to say hello to our good friends. Bob Swinger popping in early. Hello, my friend. Lee, hello. It's Buckeye Hate Week. Let's go. For certain people every week.
James Franklin hasn't had that brain fart yet. I'm hoping he has it this week.
Hey, anything's possible, but
he looked like he was going to have a brain fart against USC, and then we all saw what happened.
Yeah, Jimmy Otson, our Duck friend, popping in like number 5. Good to see you. Ducks had a strong week. We will certainly get there.
Yeah.
Daniel Gygax, contributor, friend of the show, over there helping out with the Big 12 Mafia. Hello, Skaven. Yes, we almost got you. Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, unfortunately, Skaven, but Nebraska put in a valiant effort. I will say that. We'll touch on that one in just a moment here. Mr. Ed Weiner, Houston Cougars upsetting the Utes. I think the Utes do miss the good life. Has anyone checked in on Wild Ute since Sunday? I think he's in pretty dire straits.
At this point, if anybody beats Utah, I don't think it's an upset. I think
No.
just Utah is a bad team.
Who was it? It was Bill Parcells said it famously. You are what your record says you are.
Yeah, it all shakes out in the wash at the end. You're only going to get lucky so many times, you know?
Yeah.
Nebraska Rascal. Nobody loves the Buckeyes more than TTUN. Moen, is that an abbreviation I'm not familiar with?
That team up north.
Oh, okay. I'm learning. We're learning.
We're learning. We're new to the Big Ten. Help us.
We will get there. There's only one that team, and they don't live out west. I'll tell you that.
I know I keep saying that team out west. I'm like, wouldn't be Oregon.
Yeah. Earl Carr. Hey, Mo and Becky Sergeant Pickles. How about them Cougs? 8-0. I got to tell you, man, BYU's got a team of destiny feeling with that Big 12, and seeing them in the playoff would be awesome. Yeah, I don't want to make any predictions how they will do because there's a lot that happens between now and then, but holy cow, they're looking strong in the Big 12.
How about Bomber going after Josh Pate?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh boy.
Yeah. Josh Pate has a slice of that humbled pie Josh Pate did because he's been doubting the Cougars all along, saying they're just going to fall off the cliff. And they've got it done. And Pate finally owed them an apology. But I almost think that's bad juju. You don't want Josh Pate on your side.
Josh Pate on your side. Even like Duck fans, when he picked the Ducks to beat Ohio State, Duck fans were like, oh God, no, please don't do that. And then he did it. Like every year, though, Josh Pate, just say this, every year he has a team that just like breaks his model, that just doesn't fit the model. Last year it was Washington. This year it's BYU. So it's like somebody's not like his model has flaws somewhere. He'll figure them out. Obviously, hi buddy. Yeah. So obviously he'll figure them out. But like BYU is. How about them Cougars? Like I didn't see this mostly because I didn't think they had a quarterback.
Yeah, my son unfortunately gets to endure my rantings and ravings about both the Huskies and Seahawks, but he sticks with me, and I appreciate that. He's a good son. Tony Lashin, I think we touched on this. Most physical I've seen USC. Yeah, they've always got athletes. It's all I think, honestly, they've had coaching issues for quite a while. They don't coach as much toughness as they should because they have the caliber of dudes to do it.
They do.
Friend Daniel Gygax going to watch the Steelers, watch the rest later. Good luck with that. You get some primetime Russell Wilson. Me and Becky know what that's all about. So have fun.
Have fun.
All righty. Moving right on down. I'm going to let Moen just vent it off your chest. They got the win, but I got to say, it didn't look super pretty. Nebraska, Ohio State. Have at it, Moen.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. We lost our left tackle during the Oregon game, and the replacement, they said he's been on the team for 4 years, or he's been with the program for 4 years. I don't know what he was doing in that 4 years, but it wasn't learning how to be a left tackle because the defensive end for Nebraska blew past him about 5 times. Ohio State usually runs to the left. That was our strength. Now that's our weakness. Now we have to change the entire way we run. I don't think the coaching staff trusted Will Howard enough, and I think Will Howard shows that he can be a good quarterback, even a great quarterback, when given the opportunity. He threw a beautiful pass to Jeremiah Smith that was wide open. The announcers did the jinx thing where they said, watch for the next 3 or 4 plays. Jeremiah Smith's going to break a big one. About 2 plays later, Jeremiah Smith streaking over the middle of the field. Perfectly arced pass from Will Howard. He catches it and gets a touchdown. Nebraska got in this late, which is always scary. Thankfully, the defense actually stepped up for us. Denzel Burke looked much better this week, but if that left tackle doesn't figure stuff out between now and Saturday, it's going to be a long day in Happy Valley. A long day.
I was just looking at the stats. 31 carries, 64 total yards rushing.
Yikes.
Like, their bread and butter is running the football. They ran the football down Oregon's throat. Like, they couldn't run. Like, and Nebraska got, ran off the field a week ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not saying, it was weird to watch this game because Ohio State was the better team. but it's weird knowing that that team gave up 52 points a week ago or whatever it was. And they basically handled Ohio State like you would have thought Ohio State was the team that was like 5-3. Nebraska was the team that's 6-1. Like it felt like Ohio State pulled an upset.
Yeah, my only hope in this turmoil was that they were just saving something for this weekend. They were just trying to run the ball, save something for this weekend, and they got away with one here. But listen, the line is actually still favoring Ohio State in that game against Penn State. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But I think
the line is favoring Ohio State.
It's favoring Ohio State. Now, Drew Aller did get hurt for Penn State, and we don't know the extent of that injury. But the kid that replaced him as backup ran all over Wisconsin. Wisconsin couldn't stop the kid. So
I was going to say, I watched part of that game. I was like,
that actually terrifies me a little more because I think that is an even harder thing to scheme against a running quarterback than Drew Aller.
Yeah. I'm like, the running quarterback was Nick Saban's Achilles heel. A lot of people realize that. Like, Nick Saban was horrible against them at Alabama. That's why Florida was so good. That's how Auburn was so good that one year. Anybody had a running quarterback, that's when he went out and got Jalen Hurts, it was like, oh, yeah, we're good. But, it's why Deshaun Watson was so good against him because he could get out and run. But I'm just curious on like Nebraska. Like I said, with Nebraska, they played so well and they had 66 offensive plays.
Yeah,
they controlled this game. Like I would have thought if you'd have showed me these like the time of possession, which was 35 minutes to 24, 35 to 25 basically in time of possession. If you'd have said, hey, that team that had the ball for 35 minutes was going to lose by 4 and hold the best rushing team in the conference to 64 total yards of rushing, I would have called you a liar because I wouldn't have believed you. But,
and Nebraska left points.
They just did it.
Nebraska left points on the field too. They missed a field goal and they couldn't get in on 4 downs with 1 yard to go.
Yep. But those are the things like. It's a young Nebraska team. These are the things we fully expect out of Nebraska. They're not the black shirts of years past. This team is like going to be really, really good soon. Matt Rule's, I think, on the right track, and this game shows like they're still gonna have their brain farts because they're young, but a game like this is a good game. Like I know it's a loss, and Nebraska fans don't want to hear it's a good loss. This is a good loss. Like they were good. They were the better team. They just didn't, they just didn't perform when they needed. Like no one said.
Skaven, yes. Unfortunately, saying it's Nebraska. We're used to this. Yeah, that's kind of been your MO in the Big Ten era of Nebraska. But there's things to be excited about. I do think this was kind of the trap game for Ohio State looking at their remaining schedule. And they narrowly took their foot out of the trap right before it snapped shut. Ohio State's really got to address the issues because if you put that kind of performance against Penn State, it's going to be a long weekend in State College. Moving on down just south of us to our good friend, the Duckies. I got to say, I barely watched the recap of this. Just looking at the box score, they absolutely handled. I think Illinois – I don't know if this is an F around find out kind of thing, but no offense to Illinois, you've put in some good performances against questionable competition, and this was really kind of a see what you're made of game, and they found out there's different levels to this thing. Anyone manage to catch a little bit of this game?
I watched most of the games this weekend.
Okay.
This one had me annoyed only because
it's Oregon.
No, Oregon called game at halftime. I'm like,
yeah, they did.
Just put it on them. Like, you guys, I know, like, Lanning's like, nah, they can't score. This, like, watching Illinois play, I mean, the biggest thing that I took away from this is Oregon is not great against the run. Another 130-yard rushing day out of Illinois. If Illinois had a better quarterback, this might be a different game. That was the one thing that stood out. I think this game's a lot closer if that happens, but God, Oregon came out and just physically manhandled them. I mean, everybody's seen the replay of the running back just trucking the poor defender into the end zone. I was like, that's Illinois' day. Like, I know Illinois fans are like, oh, we've been to places. Autzen is not an easy place to go in and win.
No.
You don't do it. Like,
it's the loudest 50,000 people you'll ever see.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
And they are hyped like that. They were hyped. That place was loud. And Illinois just, like you said, they effed around and found out they weren't ready yet. And they kind of showed up at the worst possible time. But it feels like it's just another Illinois thing. Can't, really good. Don't beat the top team. Don't beat the top team.
Yeah.
Beat everybody else. Beat the top team.
Tony Blatchen also mentioning Illinois had lots of guys hurt. I get that. Like, at this point of the season, everybody's got dudes hurt. You don't have everyone at 100%. I understand key injuries at key positions really makes a difference. But, you got to have enough depth. And maybe that's what the NIL era is showing, is the concentration of depth is definitely changing. I will say, for Illini Ted, our friend is out there in chat, we're not trying to dunk on you completely. No. The Huskies had a pretty terrible weekend also. And despite the result, I wouldn't be too disheartened that, your first real cross-country trip playing the number one team in the country, like, it was a rough loss, but I don't think that means Illinois is bound to just fall off a cliff the rest of the season. There's still some games to play for, and that they're doing quite well. They definitely have some winnable games coming up.
Yeah. My big thing on this, Illinois needs better quarterback play, and Oregon's better than the teams they played, maybe outside of Ohio State. I mean, they beat them by a point. I'll give them that. But again,
you mean Penn State rather?
No, Oregon and Ohio State.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Because they played, I don't like to judge and say Penn State's better than anybody. They haven't played Oregon.
Well.
And they don't play Oregon. So it's like, that's pointless to even talk about. Like, oh, what if? We'll see them if they get there. But for Oregon's situation, it's like Dylan Gabriel's probably going to be up for the Heisman.
Yeah.
But he's going to have so many interceptions thrown. They're getting by on their turnovers. They turn the ball over. They do stupid things. They're not great against the run. They're just beating teams because they have better players right now. At some point, the talent level is going to ramp up, which we saw with Ohio State. And I'm curious if that'll translate, because they're going to have to play an Ohio State or a Penn State or even Indiana, which I don't think Indiana's on par with them yet. I think they're good, not like that level, but they're going to have to turn around and play Washington, and then a week later play an Ohio State or a Penn State in that Big Ten title game.
Yeah.
You go from the emotional rivalry, which I got a feeling they're going to try and blow us out. And I would too. Get your guys on the sidelines. But also and also, they're just mad. But it's, Oregon's just, they take full advantage of their ability that they're just better than you right now. And it shows. Yeah.
Friend Jimmy Otson saying he wished they had really run up the score on one team at least this year. Like Becky said, I fully expect if they have the ability to run up on Washington, I have no doubt they will. Other than possibly resting guys, as you said, for the big championship game. They could have put up 50 on Illinois. It was a bad day for Illinois. They had injuries. Oregon got out to such a lead early that is just the game got away from them. And
the moment it was 14-0, I was like, this is ball game. And they're not catching. Oregon's too good. You can't let Oregon get 2 scores ahead of you. And then obviously the moment once they made it 28-3, I was like, that's it. I was like, they're gonna drop. I thought they were gonna drop 60 on them, but they just pulled up. Called up the dogs.
Illini fans, don't despair. You got Minnesota coming up this week, Michigan State, Rutgers, and you finish out with Northwestern. So I'm pretty confident you can at least get a win at that last game of the season.
They get 10 wins. I see 10 wins still.
Double-digit wins is easily in the cards for Illinois.
Double-digit wins and a potential playoff berth, all still there. So,
so don't despair, our Illini friends out there in chat. Moving on down, our good friend of the show, Big Ten Ted, had to eat some crow on this one because he was picking Wisconsin over Penn State. And although the score is somewhat close when you watch the game, I parts of the recap that I watched, and I even went back to watch on Big Ten Network the condensed fourth quarter just to see what happened because it was close. Penn State just ran away with it in the fourth. Wisconsin broke down, and Drew Aller was slinging the ball. I was definitely a Drew Aller hater at the beginning of this season. I didn't think he could really be consistent, but he was just slinging the ball all over the yard and making big time plays, especially when he needed to. And he looked composed. I guess that's the biggest thing compared to how he's performed before, is just limiting the mistakes. But yeah, the Wisconsin was rolling early. They were moving the ball well. And then I believe it was the second quarter, there was a pick six, Penn State straight to the house. That to me really felt like the turning point of the game, because Wisconsin was still able to run it and kind of hang in there, but the momentum completely shifted where Penn State was starting to get into a groove and really consistently move the ball and run the ball. Moen, what'd you make of this one? You got Penn State coming up.
Yeah, Drew Aller got hurt in this game. I don't know the extent of it. James Franklin said he's going to be a game time decision on Saturday. He expects him to take first team reps on Tuesday, so I don't think it was that severe. But like I said, that backup quarterback showed that he is more than capable of running that offense. And if a play breaks down, he's gone. He ran all over Wisconsin in that fourth quarter. They had no answer for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Wisconsin, man, I don't know what to make of them game to game. I don't know why they can't have the consistency, or I don't know if it's just like a lack of halftime adjustments, but I've seen a few of their performances where they look strong and they're holding in there even if they're at a slight deficit. And then after halftime, it kind of breaks down and the game gets away from them. What do you think Fickle's got to change to kind of get Wisconsin to be, more of a four-quarter team where they're putting together a solid effort?
He just needs more talent there. They don't have the talent. Deficit. They're not gonna match up with a Penn State talent for talent. So I mean,
yeah.
But he's got to get. I mean, he can do a lot with a little. He showed that when he was coaching Cincinnati. It took him to the CFP, but it's hard. There's not even really any stars on this Wisconsin team. I mean, there's some really good players, solid players, but when he was at Cincinnati, he had Sauce Gardner. He had a star. He needs more stars on this team.
Yeah, it just feels like they're on the edge of really taking that turn, and I mean they're still 5-3. They're still 3-2 in the Big Ten. They do have some tough games kind of coming down the stretch, especially rivalry-wise. Still got Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, and unfortunately Oregon coming to play them a few weeks before the end of the year, sandwich and all that. So, it's a tough road ahead for Wisconsin, but yeah, I want to see them consistently against solid competition put together a four-quarter effort. But as you said, I mean, I didn't, maybe it's a recruiting issue. I don't know how you quite address that in this new NIL era necessarily, but man, Wisconsin, you're like right there. You're so close, and I'm pulling for you. Our other W team brothers out there in the Midwest. So it's unfortunate, but Penn State looked good. As you said, they look capable of the backup quarterback, and we got that matchup with the Buckeyes coming up. But moving on down, Becky, I don't know what the fourth quarter looked like because I wasn't watching during the fourth quarter, and I'm not going to watch the recap of it either. So have at it, Becky. How did the Huskies do in Bloomington?
So have you ever watched?
Is this Urbana Champlain? Am I mixing them up?
No, this is Indiana's in Bloomington, Indiana.
Okay, good. I got my Midwestern geography okay this time.
Yeah. What you have is a team. Indiana's good. I think we knew that. The backup quarterback came in. He looked okay. They didn't have any defensive guys missing. The game plan for Washington was terrible. The play calling was terrible. And truthfully, the difference from this game being a one-score game was It was the dumbest pick six I've seen in a long time. With that,
it was super wonky.
You can't throw 2 interceptions. They did that. Washington had the 2 interceptions. You know, everything was even. You know, again, 5 penalties though, like that hurts. But everything was even. Like, I mean, it's 2 turnovers to 1. You know, like, and the Washington turnover was, you know, a deflection that a defensive lineman, people, I don't know how far that ball went like 10 yards in the wrong direction after it hit a guy in the face, right to a defensive lineman's hands. But no, this is, you have players, and, you know, Doc Gibbs put it in there. James Madison's players are on this Indiana team. Those James Madison players have been disrespected for years. Back when they played, you know, FCS football, to coming up to the FBS, not being told you can't go to a bowl game, you can't do this. These guys are out to prove everybody wrong. With that said, Signetti is a mastermind at game planning. Like, this dude creates great game plans. I didn't think it's starting to show. James Madison was crazy good last year. Indiana's crazy good this year. Like, credit where credit's due. This dude can coach. And, you know, Washington's biggest issue is the offensive line. Everybody knew it was going to be a problem. None of the guys had played together until August. Jed Fish basically said today they're going to have to build the O-line through high school, because portal is guys who don't start and are looking for opportunities, or guys who lost their job because they're not great. So,
yeah, shout out to Moen for lending us a left guard that isn't very good.
Yeah. Well, he's actually, the left guard's not terrible. The biggest issue has been on the right side. Like, they got their butts kicked a little over there. But, like, you have all the pieces are there on defense. The team is good. Like, defensively, they're really good. You know, they just, again, Indiana didn't do anything throwing the football. It's running the football that Washington has a problem with, because the D-line depth is terrible and the linebacker depth is worse. So they just exploited the problems that Washington had. And for like the umpteenth time this darn season, Washington outgained their opponent.
I was about to mention that. To everyone out there that's wondering how the penalties and turnovers, specifically interceptions, have been such a problem for Washington, to the point where that is literally the 3rd game this year where Washington has outgained their opponent in total yards and still lost. The others were Rutgers and Iowa. That's how bad it's been.
Like, and that's the thing, 50 new players. So we're seeing the Colorado effect yet again. But the biggest thing, and I'll say this, they have USC this week at home. This is a team that's 2 different teams. You get them on the road, they're not as good, but you get them here in Seattle, good luck. Good luck. I don't know how to explain this. But you had 2 weeks to prepare for Indiana, and you came out with the worst game plan I've seen in a long time, and you couldn't execute, and you looked tired, and you looked like, I get they're young. I get that they're, you know, and I'm not a Fish hater, but Jed Fish has got to figure it out at some point. Like,
I'm turning, I'm not on the fire fish wagon, certainly.
No.
But I tweeted this during the games. Like, I swear to God, if I have to see another swing pass or bubble screen on 3rd and 8, I'm going to lose my mind, because they were not working at all. I would rather you.
Everybody knew it was coming.
I would rather you go for a downfield pass incomplete, but at least you're beyond the first down marker, than a stupid swing pass. I freaking hate them. I am so over it.
I love
what Indiana every time.
Indiana was like, okay, they didn't throw for a lot of yards. They had 124 yards passing. Washington's, you cannot throw on Washington. It is brutally hard to do it. There's so much length in the secondary, but you can run right at them. They're not the biggest guys in that secondary. They're, you know, nobody's over 210 in the secondary, and the line is thin. So teams are running right at them, and it's smart.
Our leading tacklers are one of our linebackers and then our safety, and that's not exactly what you want.
It's not great. And Indiana spread them out, like spread the defense out, and then ran right at them. Like, you just can't get they can't get there. So a team's averaging 3.5 yards per carry. You got to figure it out. Like that's third. It's 3.5 yards. So you're basically sitting at first down every 3 plays. Like it's impossible to defend. But no, credit where credit's due. Indiana's good.
Indiana's good. They're legitimately good.
I'm very curious to see what they do against the great teams in the conference, like in Oregon, in Ohio State. We'll see them play, obviously, Ohio State, but like Penn State, the Oregons, and all those teams. Like, we're going to see that. And I can't wait because I think this team could. This team, I don't think anybody saw Signetti basically pulling a DeBoer because that's what he's done.
Yeah, that's a side note. We lost the Michael Penix Bowl.
Yeah. Like,
unfortunately.
But Michael Penix says he's a dog through and through, so he doesn't really recognize Indiana. So we have that. But no, Signetti's pulling a DeBoer. He flipped this script on this team. They were supposed to be nobody saw them being this good. Nobody. Guarantee if you saw them being this good, play the lottery.
I legitimately think that they could end up going 11-1 because they got the 2 Michigan schools coming up back to back, a break, and then Ohio State, Purdue. That to me screams 11-1.
I am hoping Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana, and Oregon all go 4-1 because I want to see the coin flip. I'm a sicko for this.
Yeah, Shonsky, we meant Colorado effect more as in your
last year
getting a roster together. And if Colorado's playing really good football right now, no disrespect to the Big 12, but Colorado is beating some okay teams. I think they would get crushed if they played a top 10, top 15 level team. I really do.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't go that far. I think Colorado's good.
I'm not a Colorado believer even now. I'm just not.
I'm not like saying that they win it all. I don't know. I don't think they're going to win the Big 12. I think they're going to finish 3rd or 4th. But they figured it out. This is what I'm saying. Like you just have to figure it out. And I think Jedd Fisch is getting there with Washington.
Yeah,
he's getting there. But God, if they beat the crap out of USC this Saturday at home, and then beat USC at home or UCLA at home and go 6-6 because they have to play at Penn State and at Oregon, I'm gonna be like they're undefeated at home, but can't win on the road.
Yeah. That's for a team as patchwork as it is and as put together.
Makes sense.
I think it. Well, I really want Washington, especially with all the new kids. We want those extra practices. We want that bowl game. Just because, it's tough to finish out the season like this, but I think going into next year with the rebuild project, you really want that extra game time. That makes USC a must-win. You need to take care of business at home, and that's tough to do. USC is still capable of putting it on people when they have a 4-quarter effort. I mean, USC just totally handled Rutgers, who Washington couldn't beat earlier this year. So it's tough, but
Washington's remaining schedule is home with USC, at Penn State, home with UCLA, at Oregon, bye, and then at Oregon. So good luck. Like I'm like, and everybody knows this. Like Indiana's got Ohio State left late in the year, but Indiana plays. Looking now. Load. Indiana plays Michigan State, Michigan, and Purdue as well as Ohio State. So like, I don't see them losing, but they are at Michigan State. And they are hosting Michigan. So aside from going to the shoe.
All right. Well, we're running long on our diatribe on the Washington season, but I will say controversial opinion as I about to take my purple hat off. I think Washington's got a top half of the Big Ten defense that's completely let down by the rest of this team. That's how I feel. Moving on to Northwestern Iowa, the game that I didn't expect to hit the over, but here we are, people. Look at the Iowa Hawkeyes go. Mullen?
Yeah.
What are they doing? Is it magic or is it just playing Northwestern has that effect?
Playing Northwestern, but I mean, you got to give Iowa's defense or offense some credit. I think this is their second 40-point game in a row.
We don't want to talk about
that. They play really well against teams in purple, apparently.
Apparently.
Yeah, so I mean they made some offensive jumps. Brendan Brendan Sullivan, I guess, is going to get the start this week. So congratulations to him.
He looks so much better than McNamara. I don't know why they didn't play him earlier. My Lord.
Probably because of the amount, they paid a lot for McNamara.
I don't care. Put the best dude out. I hate that. Yeah, we're getting into we paid this guy, so we got to play him era. And I'm just like, I don't care if McNamara's not at Michigan because he's not very good. Like, look at who Michigan's got right now. And McNamara didn't stay. That's how bad he was. Anyway, I don't get Kirk Ferenc. Like, Sullivan's not some miracle worker, but you could have started this season so much stronger just putting the better dude out there.
McNamara might be better than what's on the current Michigan roster. Just saying that out loud.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing you could say about this game great, other than Northwestern is a gigantic disappointment this year.
I don't know what to make of Northwestern. I don't know what to make of Northwestern. They score.
They're not good.
They're not good. No. And then other times you watch them play. You watch them play like Maryland, and you're like, oh, they look really, really good. And then they play a team with any kind of pulse. And you're like, they're terrible. I don't know what to make of them because they lit up Maryland. But they can't score in Iowa. They can't score in Washington. So they've got some offensive issues. That's clear. But, I mean, they didn't score a touchdown against Washington. And Washington had more. Again, it was at Washington. So I guess that's like.
You're okay.
I just don't know what to say about Northwestern.
Calvin,
I was clearly better. But, Mon, what do you think about the next one here, the Maryland-Minnesota game?
Listen, Minnesota lit them up in the this game was over at halftime, and I don't know what's wrong with Maryland. This team, it's the most bipolar team in the Big Ten. One week they come back and beat USC, the next week they go to Minnesota. And just Max Rosinger looked like a Heisman Trophy candidate.
Oh my God! Like I watched part of this game and I just shook my head and I was like, Maryland's not this bad, but Minnesota's not this good.
Also,
Minnesota just was like, you know what? We're doing this for Greg Flugar. Like, I don't know. They just carried whatever they did in that. Like, whatever they've done against, like, USC, both teams are USC's last opponent, by the way. Like, they just carried it over.
Yeah.
And just put it on Maryland. Maryland's not that bad. Like, right? I'm not stupid for thinking Maryland's terrible, right? Like, they're not terrible. They're great. Not terrible. I mean, they did lose. I think it was like Navy. No, Navy didn't beat them, but somebody beat them that they should have beaten. But I mean, 1-4 in the conference, and Minnesota all of a sudden looks like they could go 9-3. I said it. They could go.
Yeah. Apologies if you heard my son crying. I promise it's not child abuse. He decided to sit in a baby swing and fell out. But that's the joy of raising small children and hosting a podcast. Yeah, Minnesota. I don't know why you couldn't have done this against some of your earlier competition. Cough, North Carolina cough. But you got to row that boat a little more often there, my friends, my Minnesota friends in chat.
Didn't the quarterback – oh, no, the North Carolina quarterback got hurt. I was like, wait, did the quarterback get hurt in that game?
Yeah, Brosmer was just dropping dimes all over the place. Neither team had very good pass defense, but the Terps' rush defense was actually really good. Minnesota really was not running the ball all that much.
Yeah, I just looked. It was Minnesota ran the ball 29 times for 123 yards.
Yeah.
4 yards per carry, which is not terrible.
But they were consistently chunk after chunk after chunk.
By the way, Maryland had 320. Maryland only finished 16 yards less of total offense than Minnesota, and they lost by 25.
Oh, sorry to go back a minute, but I wanted to share this because this was my Sickos Committee weird moment of the week. In the Northwestern Iowa game, there were 2 punt return touchdowns, one by each team, which is very on brand for Iowa for some reason.
I don't know.
But I digress.
If college football ever adopts the Rouge Iowa's beatable.
Iowa's going to be unstoppable. As far as Maryland goes, I think they're just allergic to pumpkin spice because as soon as I see those advertisements, they forget how to play football for some reason. Any of our Maryland friends there in chat, I don't know. Is there like something that goes on in Maryland that like everyone just like loses coordination and decision making? I don't know what it is.
Well, in previous seasons, they were in the Big Ten East, and they usually had to face Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. All the good teams, for some reason, they were always towards the back end of their schedule.
Yeah, I mean, no excuses now, though. Everyone's got a hard schedule in
Yeah.
some form or fashion. You know, everyone's got a few speed bumps along the way. Shoot, Indiana came out of nowhere, and teams like Washington were looking at it before the season, and now you're like, oh crap.
Can we find 2 wins on Maryland's schedule? I'm going to go in order. Next week at Oregon.
No.
Sorry. No.
I should say that's on the 9th. So that's in 2 weeks. But they have a bye this week. But then they play home against Rutgers.
Maybe.
They can win that. If it's at home, I think they can win that.
Is Monungai healthy? That would be my only question for that game.
Then they're home with Maryland.
Well, they are Maryland.
I'm home against Iowa. Excuse me. I mean,
I give Iowa the win.
I give Iowa the win.
You got
there.
to take Iowa.
And then
if they're playing
their last
better,
game of the year at Penn State.
No,
they're not. I don't know. I don't see 2 wins. I see 1. Maybe.
Your over/under is 1.5. Sorry, Maryland fans.
Sorry, Maryland fans. Like, if you beat Iowa, it's because Iowa suddenly the Iowa team that played Michigan State showed up.
Yeah.
But
So
I don't see Cade McNamara getting hurt again against Michigan State.
So Maryland's in a precarious situation similar to Washington. You got to win 2 kind of iffy games to get bowl eligibility. It's tough sledding up there. I don't. Man, what do they do? Like, is it just a cultural thing to like fix this October-November problem that he's got? Like, it's every year. This is new Big Ten, same old problem where just they do well against non-conference and against some of the early games, but it's just brutal now. Nothing. I mean, I guess none of us really understand why.
No, it's the same thing. I mean, like, NFL coaches have this same issue where they're really good in September, really bad in October, but then suddenly really good in November, December.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll comes to mind. Even at USC, USC didn't lose games in November under Pete Carroll. USC lost games in October, like stupid games that they shouldn't lose, like to unranked Washington, who had only won like 2 games in their previous 2 years combined, and they get beat by a field goal. But yeah, no, it's just it's a hump. It's probably at this point eating away at him. I don't really know what else to say about Maryland other than Minnesota boat raced you and rode their way down the stream to whoever the next opponent is.
Yeah, our friend Jimmy Outson saying, is it 1.5 wins or half a win? He thinks it's
1.5 because I'm gonna give them 1.5 because they have a good shot.
1.5 because
anyone
can beat anyone.
Rutgers is game, right? Rutgers is the one game we think they could win.
I think Rutgers is the game they have the best chance.
Yeah. They should win that game.
Maybe the line should be set at 1. I think out of the 2, they can get one of them. I will say.
Well, that's why you go 1.5. The over/under is 1.5 because they have to get 2 or they get 1.
Well, what would you say is more likely? They lose all 4 or they go 2-2?
I'd
lose
say
all 4.
Yeah.
So,
that's why I said it's 1.5. Like they have a better shot at the 1 win than they do 2.
Yep. Don't take this as a shot, Maryland fans. We'd love to see you prove us wrong, but we're noticing a trend. Sorry.
I mean, they get 2 weeks to prepare for Oregon. They better use those 2 weeks wisely.
Man, I would no offense, I just game plan for the week after. Use it as a bye week. Moving on down, we got the Paul Bunyan Trophy. Am I right, Moen? Do I got my trophy names correct?
That is correct, but we will refer to it as a big brother, little brother game.
Okay.
Who's big brother, Moen?
Michigan is big brother. Michigan
That's
State is little brother.
I find the big brother, little brother pretty cringe, but unfortunately in this rivalry, it's somewhat fitting. I caught a little bit of this one, not a ton. Michigan State is like on the cusp of being so good, and it's a Jonathan Smith thing where he seems to kind of get a lot out of little. You know, he's making chicken salad out of chicken crap at times. Aiden Childs is super talented, but he looks like a freshman. Made dumb mistakes. Had a dude completely bearing down on him and just like drug it out to the side and was strip sacked. And he had no business. He should have, thrown it out of bounds far before then. But Michigan State was moving the ball. And my takeaway from this game, Michigan's defense they have big, legitimate problems. Big problems. Like, I think Ohio State could rush for 200 yards on them if they so desire. That's how bad. And you're like, oh, Mason Graham inside. It's like, you got a couple dudes in there, but all this turnover, like we said, we talk about turnover at Washington. The turnover at Michigan is showing its ugly head, and I don't think Sharon Moore has answers right now.
I am not a fan of the offensive coordinator at Michigan at all. Like, I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what he's doing. But watch Michigan play football. I think Michigan's a great team. They have a quarterback problem that is keeping them from being a great team. Like, they have great everywhere but one spot. It rears its ugly head. If you watch Michigan State throw the football and then watch Michigan throw the football, it's two different worlds. I said the same thing after Washington. Every single week I watch Michigan play, I go, why is your quarterback play so bad? Like,
because they don't have quarterbacks.
Like, if Michigan just had a better, slightly above average, I'm not saying average, just an average quarterback, we might be talking about an 8-0 Michigan squad. They're that good. Like, I know, like you said, well, their defense has holes, but the defense is on the field so much because the offense can't get first downs. They have 1, 2, 3 drives the entire day, and then they just disappear for a quarter, half a quarter, and then they come back and they have another drive, disappear. I don't know what to make of the Michigan team. Like, and I know Michigan fans don't want to hear from us. They think we're haters. But I genuinely think you have a quarterback problem, and it just fix the quarterback. Like, God, find a guy and go with it. Like, over it.
Well, listen, their running back had the most passing touchdowns in this game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's sad.
Well, I mean, it's still, again, you're right. Michigan State was moving the ball so well against them and could not punch it in.
Yeah.
Could not do it. And towards the end of the game, Childs was rolling out to throw a pass. It was 4th and 5. He could have easily made that 4th and 5 with his legs. Chose to throw a pass that didn't quite hit, So
these are all young people, young players doing stupid things. They learn on tape. This is why I love the fact that they have the iPads and then on the sidelines now. So these guys can like see the play immediately and learn and grow. I think it's going to help. But Michigan State's like watching the Huskies play this year. Like, you just like, they're so young and you do stupid things at stupid times. I don't know what to make of it. But it's easy to be in a game like this when Michigan can't do anything Michigan can't beat you. Their defense has to just kind of like bend, not break.
Yeah. The ultimate example to me was it was either the first or second possession of the game. Michigan State drove straight down the field, got inside the 5, had 4 cracks at it, and on 4th down and like 2 yards, had a stupid delay a game because Childs wasn't paying attention. So they back it up, they have to kick, and then they miss the kick. That's the kind of dumb stuff where I believe they could have put it in. They were close enough. They were moving the ball. They could have put that in for 7. You settle for 3, and you end up with nothing. And look at the difference in the game, 7 points. So that's the kind of stuff. I think Michigan State in a year or two, especially if Childs stays and Jonathan Smith can recruit to his potential, they're a team that can move up rapidly and quickly in the Big Ten. New face, I don't believe. New face, I don't believe I've seen in chat before, but I appreciate you being here. It ain't rocket science. Like this podcast way better than College Football's Maze channel. Holy crap, there was a lunatic or two in chat. Yeah, you get the vocal fan bases, especially when it's a team specific channel, it seems like there's a lot of, people eating their own when things aren't going super well.
We do need to talk. Lenny Ted made mention of it. We do need to talk about Michigan punching guys.
Well, listen,
you guys see that?
I just want to say welcome to the Big Ten. This is also a Big Ten tradition. Michigan and Michigan State having a fight during the game. And then Michigan fans screaming that Michigan State are thugs. Michigan State fans screaming that Michigan fans are arrogant jerks with cheap hits. This happens damn near every year. There's a scuffle in this game.
Well, usually it's like in the tunnel because they only have the one tunnel.
Yeah.
Which, kind of silly this day and age to have one tunnel. But, I mean, they were on the field throwing fists. Like, that's – and, like, a trainer or somebody was trying to pull the guys out and could not get them. Like, they just pulled him in. Like,
it's pretty ridiculous to –
Are they going to bring up charges on the Michigan players or the Michigan State players again?
No.
The Big Ten will look at it and they will be suspended. So,
you know what I'm referring to, Moen, right? The whole incident in the tunnel at one time where guys got charged.
Well, yeah. In that case, I did agree with the charges. I don't like Michigan, but I agreed with the charges. In that case.
Yeah, I get some hate on the field. Like I'm all for the Huskies giving it to Oregon as much as possible on the field, but don't throw cheap shots. Don't throw punches. Like you just look like an idiot. Also, you're just hurting your team in the end. So
you're wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
sorry.
Harder than your fist.
I'm like, you don't see this in women's sports. So every time it happens, I laugh because I'm like, why are you guys throwing punches? Like women get like right in each other's face and then they say something mean. You don't see a punch get thrown. You might see a shove. But the guy is like, oh, I'm going to throw a punch. And it's like, oh, nice haymaker. He's wearing a face mask.
Right.
Yeah.
Broke your hand, dude.
And by the way, welcome Rocket Science. If you're a new time watcher, please subscribe. Yep. We keep all the lunatics as hosts to the shows, not in the chat. So,
we're lunatics, but we do it with love. We get after each other, but the rule on the show is if you give it, you got to be ready to take it in return.
Isn't it Florida State, Miami this week?
Oh, good gravy.
That was last weekend.
Was that last week? Oh man, Rock's gonna be this week.
Rock's gonna be
we might as well pull this. We might as well pull this up.
We'll throw it up for a minute.
Standings for this week. Yeah, Bomber went 4-4. Wild Ute went 6-2. I went 3-5. Pickles went 4-4. Becky went 6-2. Congratulations, Becky. Rocky went. Rock went 5-3.
Becky overtook me for second place. I'm a little upset about that.
Catching everybody. I'm gonna beat the boys. Also, I just want to point out, Wild Ute was like 1-7 a week ago.
Yeah. Ute's been having a rough.
Ute's picks are going as well as his Ute's season.
Speaking of our friend Ute, I think he's hiding in chat, or was at least a little bit ago, asking about Drew Aller of Penn State. Did we get an injury update?
Game time decision per Mullen for what he read.
Okay.
Game time decision. They won't list what it is or tell anybody anything. So
good to see you.
Let's kind of do a little speed round here for next week.
Yeah,
we'll start off Ohio State, Penn State, obviously the big noon matchup.
Yep. The big one. I'm taking Ohio State. I think it'll be close. It wouldn't shock me if either team wins. That's my speed take.
Let's see. Game day on campus, big noon on campus.
Mm-hmm.
100,000 people. I'm taking Penn State.
It's not a whiteout. It is a whiteout game.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take Penn State. It's just, I think this is the year that they kind of break it, and with Ohio State's sudden line issues,
it's now or never.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they don't figure out how to plug that hole in the left side of their line, Penn State's going to smash them all day. The kid is just not good, and Justin Fry needs to go at Columbus. I don't know if he's got. Somebody made a great post on the Reddit the other day that said, I think Justin Fry must have pictures of Ryan Day with a dead girl and a live boy in his bed, because Justin Fry, since he has come to Ohio State, has not produced, has not developed offensive linemen. So my hope is Ohio State can pull it out. but they've got to figure out something at left tackle because that kid ain't it. Take a guard and start at left tackle.
Ted said what you said. Moen.
He's waiting on that Franklin
Yeah.
brain fart game. Hey.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed it happens against Washington.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No offense, Moen, but I'm hoping they bring it full bore this week and then they take their eye off the ball for playing the Huskies next week. We need the win more than you do. No, we don't. But I'm going to say that.
We got a battle of the old Big Ten West, Minnesota, Illinois, in Champaign.
Minnesota, if you want us to pretend that you're really good on offense, you better do it against Illinois, who's actually very good on defense, because otherwise I'm not going to believe you.
Yeah.
Tony Washington, no surprise. Minnesota, huge. Yeah, it's put up or shut up time, Tony.
I fully expect
to beat Illinois.
I fully expect a rebound game from Illinois here. Sorry, Minnesota. Just kind of expect it.
Yeah, Minnesota -3. What? Oh, yeah. Take Illinois.
Take the points.
Sorry, take Illinois all day. Yeah.
Let me give you guys a stat. Burt is undefeated against Minnesota.
Look at that.
Never lost a game against Minnesota.
Look at that.
Ooh.
I mean, on the other hand, you could do the gambler say, they're due, All streaks are meant to end at some point.
I mean, yeah, but there's limits to this.
There are. Yeah, Illinois is coming off a tough loss.
Oh, here we go.
They're going to want to.
Oh God, do we have to talk about this one? First one to 10. First one to 10.
Side note: Tony saying win a road game. We'll talk. Fair enough, my friend. You got
fair enough, Tony.
That's fair. Unfortunately, the only road games for the Huskies are Penn State and Oregon left.
This is actually, believe it or not, or pick 'em. Purdue could win this game. This is at Purdue. I actually like Purdue to win this game.
I actually like Purdue to win this game too. Purdue put up 48 points on Illinois.
Yeah.
Come on,
Purdue.
Take Purdue here.
It's like when Purdue's got nothing to lose, it's like they can actually play decently well. But this is not. I have no disrespect to these two teams and fan bases. I don't think I'll be tuning into this one.
Nobody's gonna watch this, but Ted's right. I think if Purdue gets beat, I think they fire their head coach right after this game. I don't think he gets the locker room.
Yeah,
they
it's
have
not
to.
good.
This is must win. Like you're not going bowling. You might as well. This has got to be must win because if you go 0-9 in the conference, that's bad.
Yeah, no good.
And we've got Oregon coming to the big house.
Man, what a marquee this was before the season. And I got to say, quite a bit of the shine's worn off it. And that's not me being a hater. It's just this is two teams going in opposite directions. Oregon's at their peak, playing really well and got big aspirations. And Minnesota, if Minnesota, not if they lose at home, if they get embarrassed at home, what happens to Sharon Moore?
Nothing.
I'm talking like they lose by 20 or more, which I think is possible. Oregon's that good.
Nothing's going to happen. He's fine. He's safe. The issue.
But why? I just don't get it.
Because
I don't think he's the dude. I'm a hater and whatever, but I think that they just hired an in-house guy hoping to keep it rolling again and just pick up where they left off, and it's not happening. It's not going to happen.
They're not going to fire him this year. I think Sharon Moore's safe. It's a rebuild. I think they're well aware. But I guarantee next year, if he does this next year, he's probably done. I think they give him 2 years because they have so much talent that's still there and that they're still recruiting at a high level. But if Oregon beats them by 50, we'll come back and have that discussion because if Oregon just beats the crap out of them, I don't know what to say. Oregon's going to beat them by 2 scores. So. Yeah,
the screams Texas at the big house too, and Jimmy Otson, of course, taking his Duckies, but the team up north against the team out in Oregon. I appreciate it, keeping it real.
Well, I was just say this: if Michigan does magically win this game, and I do say magically because someone will have sold their soul for this W.
Yeah.
What is it? What kind of pressure does it put on Oregon the rest of the way?
Still, if Oregon's gonna trip. This is kind of one of their only remaining roadblocks. And Les Austin, this isn't me hating on Michigan. I don't expect them to get just absolutely rolled over in the Big House. I think Oregon will win. I think it'll be 10 or less at the final margin. I'm just saying I am concerned that it could be possible that the game gets away from them.
It's the quarterback play that's going to be the difference here.
Yeah, it's just Michigan has limitations that Oregon can exploit. That's all I'm saying by that. And
I fully expect Michigan to run the ball down their throat. Michigan is going to run the ball down their throat, and they should. They just gave up 130 yards to Illinois on the ground. Michigan could easily have 160, 170. The question then becomes, if it is a one-score game, unless you have to answer this, like, is your quarterback late in the game has to go 85, 75, 80 yards? You only have a minute. You have your timeouts, but you only have a minute. Can your quarterbacks throw their way downfield? Like to either win the game or tie the game. Can they throw their way downfield? That's the biggest difference between Oregon and Michigan right now. Is we know Oregon can do it. We just don't know Michigan can do it. And again, I think Michigan keeps this game close, but I just think Oregon's going to win by 2 scores.
Moen, who do you got on that one real quick? 2 of your lesser favorite teams.
That's what I told people. I'm torn on this.
He's rooting for the meteor too.
Oregon's going to win. 14.5 points. Last week, if this was last week, I'd say no way. But after what they did to Illinois, look, they could easily win this game by 21 points.
Yeah.
And that's, I know Michigan fans will say I'm an Ohio State fan and I'm hating on them. You can say I'm hating on them less, but listen, your quarterbacks can't keep up with them. Yeah, there was a good trick play on Saturday, but you can't just win a game running only trick plays. And your defense has shown that people can rush on it. So,
if Michigan State can move the ball, what do you think Oregon with a Heisman contender quarterback can do?
I do know that the Bazooka Sharks did run 3 consecutive flea flickers to go 80 yards downfield.
Nice.
So that's a little American Dad reference.
I'm with you there. Moving on down, we got Indiana, Michigan State. Indiana's just not going to get respect, even though they're playing well.
They're going to blow out Michigan State. Come on, what?
They do. They're still missing their quarterback. It doesn't look like he'll necessarily be back in time unless there's been an update. So, Indiana wins. I don't know about. They're favored by 8. I think Indiana wins and covers.
Yeah, I think
Michigan State's got a long way to go.
Yeah,
I agree. Indiana wins and covers.
Yeah, I got to address this because our friend Conundrum Pickles hates Jed Fish and won't admit it. I'm a hater of his play calling. I'll say that much. I think he can turn it around. He did a good job with Arizona, but I'm not in love with his play calling.
I'm fine with the play calling. It's at this point, execution is the biggest issue. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I do think he tries to outthink defensive coordinators too much. I think that's his biggest problem. Just call the play.
Yeah. But I digress. We're moving on to talking of Rutgers. Keep chopping. They're on bye this week. I'm glad Rutgers can't lose this weekend. Hey, man,
not everybody's the Dallas Cowboys. Not everybody can lose on the bye.
Rutgers they still got a lot going for them. The season is not over. It was a tough one playing, on a Friday in a tough situation. You can still put together a good finish of the season. So don't fret, our Rutgers friends out there. Moving on down, UCLA against Nebraska. This is, 1970s are calling, and they want their top 10 matchup back. What do you guys think?
Back-to-back road games, essentially, for UCLA. They had the bye. Nebraska by 10.
Yeah, I like Nebraska. I think Dylan Raiola is a really talented young quarterback. He makes some mistakes, but their defense looks solid against Ohio State. I got to take Nebraska. They will finally I think they'll be bowl eligible for the first time in 8 years. So good for Nebraska. I think you get bowl eligible.
I think UCLA just doesn't have enough talent to kind of sustain a whole lot against that Nebraska defense. I think they look great against Rutgers, but I think Rutgers is kind of fallen off the map since beating Washington. Just give me the Cornhuskers.
I would give UCLA a puncher's chance, especially if it was in Los Angeles. But
it's not.
I think it would, if that happens, if for some reason it would be more of a Nebraska implosion than UCLA finding a good rhythm. It is in Lincoln. They're going to have the crowd roaring. Nebraska just played Ohio State tough. They should put away UCLA.
I just even if it was at the Rose Bowl, it'd be 90% Nebraska fans.
Yeah, but even so,
Yeah.
moving right on down, Tony Lashin and others in chat will have strong vitriolic opinions about this one. But we got Moen, what trophy is this? There's a million of them. I don't know which one it is.
For a pig.
Is this the Floyd of Rosedale?
No, that's Minnesota and Iowa.
See,
I don't know what Wisconsin and Iowa was one.
Heartland Trophy. They're
Heartland
saying
Trophy. Okay,
allegedly.
I believe them.
What's it look like, guys? Like conundrum. What's it look like?
It's just a big thing, a thing of thing. No, that's the Iowa Wisconsin one.
No,
yeah, you got no. I love all your history and trophies, but man, if they're only special if you have like 1 or 2 of them, not 10. Come on, Iowa people, you just got to pick and choose here.
Hey, it is a night game in Iowa, so unlike Ole Miss, they get a nice night game. Nobody knew that Ole Miss was complaining that they don't.
Well, hey, guys,
who you taking?
Count your blessings, because we used to use live animals for trophies. Now we just do statues of them. Floyd of Rosedale was a real pig. The Illybuck trophy was a real tortoise that got traded back and forth between the schools.
You mean it wasn't a real white-tailed buck that just got traded back and forth? What's up with that?
No, Illybuck. It was the Illinois Buckeye Trophy, and it was a turtle named Illybuck. So yeah, count your blessings. But yeah, you're right. We have too many trophy games.
Yeah, I got some that they don't even. They got brass spittoons and old buckets and all this. Anyways, that's me getting off my. Hey, shut up and be thankful you're in the Big Ten soapbox. Wisconsin, Iowa. How are we feeling?
Iowa -3. What do you think, Mon?
I like Iowa just because it's in Iowa.
Yeah.
I do think it's a close game, though.
I'm on the Iowa train as well.
Yeah.
But I think Wisconsin. I want to say Wisconsin's going to score some points. I think Iowa's going to have to try to keep up.
If Wisconsin can move the ball like they were doing fairly successfully in the first 3 quarters against Penn State, the key to Iowa is kind of the same as Rutgers because they're very similar teams. You got to get up early and kind of hold them at a deficit and force them into having to throw the ball more than they're comfortable, because they'll just run Caleb Johnson until he can't run anymore, which they have yet to find a limit on how far that dude can run. If he steamrolled Washington, he steamrolled Northwestern, and be stout up front. Wisconsin has some dudes up front they can make plays stopping the run, but I honestly think this is a pick 'em on a neutral field. But kind of the playing a night game in Iowa, there's definitely some magic with that crowd, and I'll take Iowa in a close one.
Yeah, the other thing I want to bring up, Sullivan is a running quarterback, and that running quarterback from Penn State dashed Wisconsin. So
yeah, he's got better decision making than McNamara for sure. So that's why I trust him a little bit more, even though he's still limited in his throwing ability. All right, moving on to the final game, and Becky and I, I'm guessing, are taking Washington because traditionally the LA teams don't play super well in Seattle, and we're kind of betting our hopes and dreams of making a bowl game on it. So let's move on down to Moen. Or Becky, give us your game, what the game's going to do real quick, and then we'll get to Moen, who actually is a little more unbiased.
Oh, if USC's not going to be able to throw the ball like they're used to. So if Washington can, I don't know, figure out how to stop the run and make USC throw the ball, it's going to favor Washington. Washington's just going to run Jonah Coleman at them all night long, and he's probably going to be tired. It's a 230-pound bowling ball. It's 5'9". I like Washington only like it's here in Seattle, and they're really good in Seattle, and they're trash everywhere else. So.
True.
But I mean, -2.5, you have to take Washington. Come on.
Yeah. I will say Woody Marks, he put up 3 touchdowns against Rutgers, but his yards per carry hasn't necessarily been super great, even against teams with, so-so run defense. It just depends on which version of the Husky offense shows up, the kind that moves the ball and gets it to Boston and makes good plays, and then Coleman gets some solid runs, or the kind that moves the ball but throws 2 to 3 interceptions.
It's also the same with Moss Miller. Like which version of Moss Miller are we going to see? The really good one, or the not so good one? Like the Maryland version. Which Miller Moss is like really good one quarter and terrible the next. Really good one quarter, terrible the next, and even worse in that fourth quarter. So
Conundrum is not a Lincoln Riley fan. He doesn't care. Why should I? Yeah, he's not going to get his Heisman winner this year, so maybe that his goal.
Let me say this. I did find this little nugget out. It is a $90 million buyout for USC.
Yikes. Even for USC, that's like Jimbo Fisher level.
That is like next level money. So good luck. Almost $100 million to buy him out. I know they have deep pocketed boosters. Everybody knows USC does, but they're not paying that kind of money.
Yep. All right, Mo, a neutral observer. How you see this one going?
The spread is USC by 3. I think that's exactly how it goes. I think USC wins by a field goal. I think it's a close game. I think it ends up like 27-24.
At least make me feel better about it. Would it shock you?
Listen, I picked them, and I used the point system. You might be okay. That might be a good tidings for you. But Will Rogers is going to throw a bad interception. I think it's going to happen.
It's true.
I think that's going to be the difference.
I mean,
even in Washington's
I'm in the same zip code as the stadium, so I'm just looking at the weather. It's going to be 50 degrees probably. It's going to be cold. Good luck, USC. They don't do well here in late October in Seattle, November. So historically.
Real quick, we got some friends in chat throwing in there. Les Austin, Michigan guy, take my lumps this year. No crying excuses. Boosters and alumni get this back on track.
Well, the guy, what was it? Portnoy said, promising he's going to get you guys a quarterback there, Les. He's going to get you a quarterback.
Jeez.
Like he's making that promise, and he's rich. So
I hope it's McNamara from Iowa. That would complete the joy of my life.
Put that curse on them, Ricky Bobby.
Probably Iowa with the new quarterback. Or that he's talking about the Iowa game. Sullivan, Washington at home, they win. Appreciate the vote of confidence. Go blue. Woody Marks is a beast. He is. He's not. Yeah, like I said, not super big on yards of carry, and that's not as much as him, but just USC's O-line being able to block. But he's athletic, and if he can break one, he absolutely just blows by down the field. Hoosier Spartans on Peacock. Yeah, I mean, it's a big slate this week, and I definitely am not going to be able to watch all of them. But I think that one, man, the Hoosiers. I think the Hoosiers take care of business. Unfortunately, the Jonathan Smiths have a ways to go. All right.
I mean, Peacock 12:30. Sorry, guys, you get to listen to what's his face, former Texas quarterback. God, he sucks on that.
Colt McCoy.
There's a reason he's not on NFL and college football main game coverage anymore.
He is the dullest guy. They should have just hired Ryan Leaf. He could just talk shit about everybody who left the Pac-12.
Okay, you do you, Colt McCoy. But I digress. It was a fun week for everyone not named the Washington Huskies and a couple other teams, but definitely an entertaining week. A lot of crazy stuff happening. I expect more of the same. If there's anything I can say about the Big Ten season is that there's enough games and enough interesting matchups that there's not a single dull weekend, and that's my one for the road. Becky, what do you got going this week?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. This is make or break weekend for a number of teams. You know, we keep talking. We want to see, I think 4 teams from the Big Ten could easily get in the playoff. But this is the week where we could see 5th possibly emerge. So looking at, the Illinois and that of the world, they have to go on a run, but 2 losses is better than 3 or 4, which the SEC is starting to get into the meat of their stuff. So I think we're going to see a 4-way tie for first place.
Man, you're hoping for that coin flip just so people can gamble on it, aren't you?
Yes. I want to gamble on it.
Nice. All right, Moen, close us out.
I, too, would like a 4-way tie because that means Ohio State wins out, so I'm all for it. Go 4-way tie.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Go 4-way tie.
We've got a good chance at 5-6 teams being considered for the playoff, which is what you want as the conference. Like, this is why they put the conference together. The SEC's got the same thing, and they're down there fighting down south because LSU gets another night game.
Yep. Mo, this is becoming a feature on the show. What hat do you predict you'll be rocking next week?
Let me see. What do I have got to wear yet? I said I was going to wear the Sparty hat if they won this week.
Okay.
If Sparty wins this week, I'll wear the Sparty hat.
They deserve it if they beat Indiana.
If they beat Indiana.
Yeah.
If Penn State wins this week, I will wear the Penn State hat.
Gracious in defeat, Mo, and we appreciate that here with your integrity on the show. We appreciate everyone being here and joining us, and for our garbage takes and otherwise good analysis from my two co-hosts. Thank you so much for joining us. We got other shows, Big 12 Mafia, College Football's Big 10 Freaky Friday. What's the exact name of that? I always forget.
It's the BFFs. Big Freaking Friday.
Big Freaking Friday show.
Friday, and it was fun last week. It was such a good show.
We've been without Moen After Dark this week, and I'm missing it. So certainly check that out on Sundays as well.
Should have given Moen like 5 minutes to rant about Navy losing badly to Notre Dame.
I was looking forward to hearing Rock after this last weekend.
I was too.
Yeah.
Rock's probably still hungover.
Yeah, we had family commitments pop up last minute, but we should be good for next Sunday, guys. So you can hear Rock, Crow, and me sulk probably. So
there you go. But it's a lot of fun. Please do check out our other shows and content as we got going in. Subscribe, become a member of the channel. We do have members exclusive videos, and during the off season especially, we put out tons and tons of those. But we appreciate everyone being here. We will see you next Monday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. We'll talk to you later, everyone.